But Kevin had been unhappy with this state of affairs for a long time. His mother-in-law called him several times a week, asking him to come over and help her with minor repairs. "Catherine, I can't take it anymore," he complained to his wife. "And it would be okay if I at least something serious to do, but I'm always coming because of some nonsense. I do only 5 minutes, but I spend an hour each way on the road. I end up wasting the whole evening. Kevin, I don't like it either. It's like we have nothing to do at home, and I just want to spend time with you, not wait in an empty bed until late at night. I'll try to talk to her. In the meantime, go see her again, please." The man sighed heavily, but he could not refuse his favorite wife, and he had nothing against his mother-in-law. She was a wonderful person, just suffering from loneliness and lack of communication. All of Kevin's recent visits to Priscilla really ended with him solving a problem in a matter of minutes, like a small clog in the sink or a cabinet moved a couple of meters away. The mother-in-law thanked the man sincerely, sat him down at the table, and fed him a delicious dinner. The man did not resist. He loved to eat good food. While devouring the food, he always looked at Priscilla. "She's a beautiful woman, and why doesn't she have a man?" he thought. As if to confirm his words, the mother-in-law wore quite frank outfits, absolutely unashamed of her son-in-law. Short robes, tight t-shirts, and home shorts were the order of the day for her. "Hello, Kevin," Catherine called. "She's worried that I've been calling you too often for little things." Priscilla told the man from the door during his next visit. "Well, that was a delicate talk from the wife," Kevin thought. "Priscilla, don't take offense at her. She is bored and needs attention too. And I can't go broke. It's not hard for you to help me, and it's a pleasure. It's just really possible to plan things a week in advance. To come, for example, once a week and solve all the problems at once." "I understand you," my mother-in-law replied sadly. "You are right, of course." There was silence in the apartment, and Kevin had to break it himself. "So, Priscilla, what can I do for you?" "Oh yeah, come on, I'll show you." This time the man had to hang a couple of new bookshelves, which were already all over the walls. During this process, the woman was watching her son-in-law's work, which greatly embarrassed and even annoyed him. As usual, Kevin looked at his mother-in-law questioningly. "Do I deserve dinner?" he asked jokingly, diffusing the tense atmosphere in the apartment. "Yes, yes, of course," Priscilla shone and smiled. "You know, it's so nice to watch a man work. How he gets on and does everything. It is, if I may say so, very sexy." Kevin almost choked on his pilaf. He hadn't expected his mother-in-law to say that. He gave a dutiful woot, but immediately thought about what his mother-in-law had said. "Does she see me as a potential lover? She wants to seduce me?" He fretted. His mother-in-law was strutting around the kitchen in her traditional short silk robe, and it was as if the man looked at her from a new angle. In theory, of course, he could sleep with her. Age was no barrier to him. But Kevin loved his wife very much and didn't want to cheat on her at all. And Priscilla was not just a woman from the outside or a casual acquaintance, but a real mother-in-law, in fact, his relative. Weighing all these facts, the man came to the conclusion that even in theory, it would be very difficult for him to decide to take such a step. That said, he could no longer help but keep his eyes on the woman in front of him. Her bare feet with fuller thighs looked quite appetizing. The mother-in-law's face was cute and handsome, and the figure was the most important thing of the woman. Such volumes and proportions were very much to Kevin's liking. That evening, having kissed his mother-in-law on the cheek, he went home. But there in bed, hugging his wife, he could not sleep for a long time. In front of his eyes, every now and then, surfaced image Priscilla with a minimum of clothes on her beautiful body. From that day on, the woman did indeed bother him much less often, but when Kevin did visit her, he tried to spend more time with her. First of all, he was beginning to feel guilty about not spending enough time with his mother-in-law, who needed him so much. And secondly, now he was even more attentive to the woman and even admired her. Now he was constantly thinking dirty thoughts. At the same time, it seemed to Kevin that Priscilla sometimes even deliberately flaunted in front of him. Her frank appearance, poses, and awkwardly thrown phrases sometimes directly screamed about it. Once, while assembling a closet, a man had hurt his arm very badly, so Priscilla had to remember the nursing skills she had learned as a student. Sitting down next to Kevin and pressing her hip against him, she placed his palm on her bare knee. Feeling the warmth of her body and the smoothness of her skin, his son-in-law immediately forgot about the pain and the sight of blood, which he wasn't thrilled about. While his mother-in-law worked her magic on his arm, he put his palm around her knee a little, as if trying to flirt with her. Priscilla's movements were sharp, and from them the halves of her robe parted further and further apart, thus exposing her legs more and more. But Kevin didn't see anything hidden that time. His mother-in-law finished the bandage and left to bring the medicine. The man was even upset and felt the pain again, back from heaven to earth. Communication that day proved to be crumpled. Priscilla felt uncomfortable. She felt like it was her fault he had suffered a non-serious but still unpleasant injury. Kevin began to visit her even less often, but now the woman sat down next to him every time and examined the site of the deep cut. Allegedly, it was important to her that everything healed properly and without consequences, although both son-in-law and mother-in-law understood that there was nothing to worry about. At such moments, it was as if a spark ran between them, and the unusual couple would sit on the sofa for a long time, talking on distant topics. One day, the man did not hold back. He put his arm around Priscilla to thank her for her attention, but did not remove his hand. "What's that supposed to mean?" The mother-in-law spoke with a slight twitch in her throat. "I just don't want to take it away. I want to be closer to you." The man answered honestly, "I want that too. You're so beautiful, Priscilla." "Thank you, Kevin. You are also a very prominent man." They both realized where their conversation was going. Both were afraid of the consequences, but both were eager to continue. "You realize we shouldn't what? Do this." With these words, Priscilla suddenly kissed her son-in-law on the lips, but quickly turned away, embarrassed and frightened like a schoolgirl. "Indeed they shouldn't," agreed the man, "but I really want to." This time he took the initiative and kissed his mother-in-law back. The kiss was much more sensual and prolonged. "Aren't you afraid of what will happen later?" Priscilla continued to doubt the rightness of what was happening, as if trying to shift all the blame and responsibility onto the man's broad shoulders. "Then will be later, and I'm interested in what's happening now." Without removing his hands from his mother-in-law's waist, he ran his other hand under her robe. She began to actively explore the woman's body, which was now covered only by her underwear. Kevin was clearly getting turned on, and the extra clothing was getting in the way of his pleasure. First he pulled off Priscilla's robe, and then quickly and skillfully got rid of her bra and then her panties. It was 1,000 times more pleasurable to enjoy a woman's body like that. Having properly played with him, he undressed himself and pulled his mother-in-law into the bedroom. To his joy, she no longer asked him philosophical questions that he didn't want to answer. That evening, the dreams of both of them were realized 100%. After the long-awaited intimacy, lying in silence and resting for a long time, Priscilla asked, "Do you have to leave already?" "No, why would you think that? It's getting late." The woman's voice sounded disappointed. She would give anything to have Kevin stay in bed with her until morning, but she knew it was impossible. "What? You won't even feed me?" "Come on, you stallion," she smiled, getting out of bed.